Happy St. Patrick's Day and welcome to Thursdays with NAMI. My name is Peg Morse and I'll be your host tonight. I am the Assistant Director of NAMI North Carolina. That's the National Alliance on Mental Illness, North Carolina, and I'm glad you all are here today. Thursdays with NAMI is our way of building conversations and building community around the topic of mental health. Tonight, we'll be looking at the intersection of mental health and physical health. Specifically, how is one's mental wellness affected when they are a survivor of severe physical trauma, in this case, a spinal cord injury? What happens to that person when they find out they will live the rest of their life using a wheelchair? How does one manage the feeling of losing control, the grief, the rebuilding? So our guest tonight has firsthand experience in exactly this area. Storyteller Madeleine Holden of Quebec will be sharing her journey with us in just a moment. As usual, the first part of our show will be an interview with our guest. Partway through, we'll show a lighthearted video of the week, and then we'll spend time answering questions from you, members of our virtual studio audience on Zoom and Facebook Live. Now, we're going to start with a word from our sponsors. Thursdays with NAMI is funded in part by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Abuse Services through the Community Mental Health Block Grant Fund. We appreciate their guidance and their support. Now, without further ado, I'll introduce our wonderful guest. I've heard her tell her story, and it's very powerful, very understated, compelling speaker. Madeleine Holden is a peer counselor for a group called MIMO Quebec in the Chaudière-Appalaches region of Canada. She began storytelling after taking a class in 2020. There, she found a new outlet to share her experience as a survivor of severe physical trauma, and that, of course, is a great way to help other people. She lives with her husband, Jean-Pierre, on a small farm in Quebec. Normally, I start out asking people to tell their story in a nutshell, but since we have a storyteller here and she's primed and ready to do this, we're going to listen to the fuller version of her story. And I'm excited because I have never heard this before. Welcome, Madeleine.
Thank you very much. I'm buried alive, and it takes every last bit of my energy to scrape myself to the surface of the earth. I gasp for breath and I open my eyes. There's a young woman nearby, dressed in blue. A nurse, perhaps. She says, "You're awake. Do you know your name?" "Madeleine Holden," I say. "Do you know what day it is?" I try and think. It's the first day of the winter semester, January 25th, 1985. "Do you know where you are?" I have to think again. I went somewhere and now I'm back. It comes to me, Montreal. "Do you know what's happened to you?" I see flashes of light, fragments of memory, broken pieces, but I just can't remember. I'm lost and I slip into the darkness again. A minute or a million years later, I open my eyes in a small room. I can hear the beeping and buzzing of machines on my left. And on my right, I hear muffled voices so very far away. "We will keep her in a drug-induced coma for a while. The injuries to her spine are much too serious. When she's stable, I can operate." I broke bones. I'm broken. This has to be a mistake. Just 3 weeks ago, I emptied my bank account and bought a plane ticket out west. My first solo trip, my first time on an airplane, Montreal to Edmonton. My boss at the country club where I work as a waitress gave me a check for $400 as a Christmas bonus. It was so much extra money. I felt rich and it felt like a good time for a trip. "What's your plan?" my mom says. "You're spending all your money. You'll be broke." And the answer that popped into my head was, "The Lord will provide," just like the cheeky teenager I am. My mom always wants to know the plan, and she can be intense. Like, I'm going to fly off and never come back or something. The plan's pretty easy. I'll go, I'll come back, I'll get my job back, start my winter semester. Easy plan, right? So I take the trip and have a blast. I start in Edmonton visiting my siblings, Kathy and Paul. They take me out to see a band, and I dance like my life depended on it. Later, I'm visiting friends in Calgary, and I borrowed a car and drove myself into the Rocky Mountains. I felt so alive and free and independent, flying down the ski hills at breakneck speeds, just enjoying such a spectacular setting. I had the most spectacular I had ever seen. Another day, I wandered around Banff, soaking up the winter sun. The sky was so blue. The snow was so white it hurt my eyes to look at it. I delighted in the idea that someone left the Christmas decorations up just for me. Everything sparkled with potential. My future looked bright. Now, everything's dark and broken. 2 minutes or 2 million years later, my eyes flutter open again. There are giant ants crawling on my ceiling. They reach their long antennae down into my bed, trying to touch my face. I scream in horror, but no sound comes out. I have no voice. What I do have is a tracheotomy, a tube cut into my throat, keeping my lungs clear, keeping me alive. My nightmares persist. I hear a comforting voice in my right ear. It's my sister Barb saying, "You're hallucinating. The ants aren't real." I don't know what is anymore. And then it's in and out of consciousness. I can see the shapes and shadows of people around my bed. People taking care of me, moving me, turning me, hurting me. They leave me in excruciating pain. I hear the voices of family and friends, people weeping, people praying for my life, for my soul. Someone says, "What will her life be like?" Community members and church leaders come in to support my parents in their time of need. The constant drone of the Lord's Prayer raises the tension in the room, fills me with anxiety. Thy will be done. Entombed in my immobile body, I scream back, "Who would will this on anyone?" Forgive us our trespasses. Trapped in my coffin, I scream back, "Punishment? What horrible thing did I do to deserve this?" Forever and ever, amen. I panic and scream, "No, that's too long. I have to wake up." Sorry. Instead, I'm pushed off a cliff into an ocean of morphine. My dreams become vivid, colorful. The stories become crystal clear. It's like I become the characters of books I've read, and I can feel what it felt like to walk in their shoes. Like Anne Frank, locked in a tiny room with her whole family, hiding from the Nazis in complete silence for 2 years. Or Helen Keller, blind and deaf, unable to speak, but searching, always searching for new ways to communicate. Or Johnny Erickson, that teenager in an electric wheelchair, paralyzed from the neck down after a diving accident, struggling through rehab, but fighting her way back to happiness. How did they do it? Where did they find their courage? Jesus was there. Oh yeah, I swear he looked just like David Bowie. He was wandering around with his buddies, totally broke, fishing, telling stories, teaching lessons. I imagine myself right into that story. A poor girl walking home from town, stopped dead in her tracks, curious by the commotion, compelled to sit down and listen to the stories and find meaning in the words. My mind shatters like glass. I remember. Just days after my trip, trying to get home one cold, dark night, I'm hit by a car in bad weather, and I find myself here. I break free from the darkness at last. With my eyes wide open now, I can see there's a tall man standing beside my hospital bed. I don't know how long he's been there, but I'm not afraid. He has a kind face, intelligent eyes, green scrubs. "My name is Dr. Moore," he says. "I'm your neurosurgeon. I have restabilized your neck. The operation went well. We will have to wait till the swelling goes down to determine the level of your spinal cord injury, but you will not walk again." He takes a deep breath and continues softly. "I know this isn't the life you expected, but it's a life. I had a friend in a wheelchair back in medical school. He's a doctor now and drives an adapted van. You can continue your education. You can have a family. Because of no fault car insurance, you will have money to pay for people to help you with your daily activities. So it's really up to you what happens next. I'm sorry to have to tell you this. I know it's a lot to take in." And I watch him as he turns and he walks out of the room, his words still hanging in the air. Heavy, devastating loss, interspersed with fragments of hope. The Lord provided all right, a lifetime in a wheelchair, but also a second chance. I am in charge of what happens next, the author of the next chapters. If only I can find the courage. I believe I can. I get to work putting the broken pieces of my life back together. And the plan is to make it beautiful. Thank you.
Wow. Well, that was certainly beautiful. That's so powerful. And boy, I just felt like I was there with you every step of the way, and so much that you've been through. I can't imagine how it would feel to lie immobilized in a hospital bed and hear people saying, oh, the spinal cord injury, and we don't know if she'll make it, and then the prayers, the angst-ridden prayers. That's, wow, you really painted the picture so well.
Thank you. It was terrifying.
Oh, I'm sure. And you
Yeah.
had been on a big trip skiing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Skiing and dancing and visiting and just having a ball. So it felt like a necessary time to do that. And I'm really glad I did.
Right. Wonderful comments in the chat box. I don't know if you can see those. So beautiful. I'm so moved. Thank you, Madeline, from Erica Blumfield. Peg, I felt it too, responding to my comments. Madeline, that is a powerful story from Gail. And our intern also had some comments, Paulina. I'm just sharing these for the folks on Facebook who might not have access to them. Powerful from Paulina. So, wow, yeah, my goodness, that's so intense. And I can't imagine the impact on your mental health. You've told us a bit about life before your accident. Tell us a little more about what life was like before that happened at age 18, and did you experience anxiety before that?
Okay. Well, me in a nutshell first is that I'm now living in Quebec, and my children have all grown up, and I've started this new thing of writing and telling stories, and it seems like I'm going in a new direction again, redefining myself again. So that's pretty exciting. I grew up, I was born in Montreal, and I grew up in a little town called Mont-Saint-Hilaire on the south shore of the St. Lawrence River. And it's a picturesque little place. There's a mountain in the center of the town where we all played and hiked and skied and skated and tobogganed and did all the Quebec things that we do, lots of winter things. And but also in the summer picking in the fall picking apples and hiking, and it was just a really wonderful place to grow up. I'm the youngest of a family of 6, 3 boys and 3 girls, and maybe was the annoying little girl, I don't know, but I think they liked me enough. It was there were some moments personally that I had anxiety. I was the kid that was terrified to speak up in class.
Oh, wow.
I was a French oral was like enough to throw me over the edge. I could not. I felt sick. I had to learn every single word. I had to know it by heart. I had to not look at the people. It was very I was, yeah, not made for speaking in
So,
public.
so you're referring to oral exams, is that right?
Yeah, or for yeah, oral exams, yeah, to speak out in front of your peers, and it was just really, really hard. Yeah, well, we in my house we all played piano, and we all what I did gymnastics and ballet. So I was often thrown into situations where I had to be brave, and it really I nobody was talking about anxiety or any kind of mental illness. It was just very taboo of the time, not to even, and so I just kept pushing on and plugging along, and so my hands would shake uncontrollably playing the piano in front of people. My In gymnastics, I would sometimes, like, the worst thing was to fall off the beam because you lost your focus or whatever. So yeah, I definitely had anxious moments in my life. Tests were difficult to take. But I plodded on, right? I was thrown into it at an early age. At 6, my parents put me in a French school so I knew not a word of French.
Oh, wow.
And I was this Protestant, what Catholics considered pagan kid,
Oh, gosh.
who, yeah, and thrown into an ocean of Catholicism with, mostly
Wow.
taught by nuns. So it was, yeah, I think I had some anxious moments in my life. I do remember, though, there's probably even more. Um, I remember very young sitting on the couch with my mother and my other sisters, and we were all holding hands, and we were immobile with fear because one of my older brother was, well, everybody thought he was different. And then everybody thought he was different because he wasn't, didn't have a lot of friends or didn't talk to people much and preferred to go off in the mountain and, disappear by himself.
Oh, wow.
And so that time, and it was a young memory, so I might be 6 or 7, he had run away. And we they had called the police, missing persons report and everything. We just sat there and listened to the helicopters going around the mountain looking for him.
Wow.
And but nobody was talking. My mother was just staring straight ahead and so I did not know what I know now, but that my mother was also dealing with high anxiety about our lives, about the responsibility of having kids that could hurt themselves.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that was me and anxiety, right? But right before, which didn't get into the story, around my accident, I was very unhappy. I was with someone that it just didn't feel right, and we were dragging it along and not breaking up and fighting a lot and all that, and you try and make it work, and so there was that. And then, but I was also starting my last semester in college. So in Quebec, it's CEGEP. After high school finishes in grade 11, there's like this 2 years of an academic limbo where you try stuff out and then you decide what you want to do when you go to university. Well, I was coming up to the 4th semester, still didn't have a clue. didn't know what I was doing, didn't know what I wanted. I was not feeling good about it. There were lots of things going on, lots. And so one of them would be that I felt like I was living two lives. I had the good Madeleine that was doing well at school and teaching Sunday school, telling stories to little kids and making them laugh. And then there was that feeling that I was not at home there. And then there was this other side of me that was, because nobody was churchgoers in the area. I had no one to talk to except for one guy that moved away. And so the other side was just, I'm 18, this is Montreal, let's drink and party and dance all night. And I was having troubles getting these two people into one person, let's just say.
Sure. It is a confusing time of life when you're trying on different hats. I certainly felt that. And we have a lot in common. I was also the youngest of six with three girls and three boys, but we were the Catholic family. But I don't think we saw Protestants as pagans.
Oh, that's a Quebec thing, I think.
Okay. But yeah, it does sound, I understand that. I remember that feeling of appearance versus reality, and that sort of, I felt conflicted about a lot of things. Yeah. So the conversation with that doctor, he was very kind, but also very direct. What happened after that? How did you manage that emotional weight that he left you with?
Well, it was huge and devastating, of course. Okay, I'm the active kid, gymnastics, ballet, piano, like all these things, right? So that I knew that there were a lot of things were over for me. But he had just put enough little fragments of hope that I thought, I need to find out more about this and maybe I can do it. And yeah, so, and then I decided to take it very slowly, not see of things in like, can I, like, will I be better in a week? Or will I, at first I thought, well, I'll miss a couple of weeks of school, I'll be back, everything will be fine. Because I didn't believe it, right? I was in denial and I was hopped up on morphine and it was like, oh no, I'll be fine, don't worry. And but then you realize, oh no, you're in there for the long haul, and it's going to take a long time. It took a long time. So there were some things that were helpful. How did I deal with it? I decided to take it just a little bit at a time.
Wow, that's always a good word to live by, is that, one step at a time, one day at a time. Absolutely. Anything else that we should know about your dark days or how you made that transition?
Oh, they were really dark days. Okay, in rehab, once again, I felt thrown into it, and it's like you're in this little sardine can of about, say, 200 people who've had accidents, different kinds of things, so that there's germs everywhere. So I'm sick all the time. Okay, and so like a little cold or somebody gets a stomach flu and then it goes around, and it just seemed to go on forever. So it's the physical health always brought me down. It's
Mm,
like, well, and so that's, you have to take care of your physical health for your mental health to go well, right?
sure do.
But then eventually, um, well, dark days. Yes, there were dark days. There was I would say one of the darkest part period was in the second rehab. So I'm like, your physical part is sort of stabilized, and you're there to reintegrate into school or a job or whatever before you go out and live on your own independently. And it was when I was dealing with getting beyond my paralysis of fear of being alone
Oh,
and maybe not being loved,
mm,
and then dealing with my body image and all that. And how would that was a really, really dark time. But surprisingly enough, um, I breaking up with that person did a wonder of good.
oh, well, thank goodness for that part.
Well, yeah, it sounds, yeah, it was not meant to be, and which is something I knew before,
Yeah,
but it took a long time for me to be brave enough to actually get there and say I'd rather be alone than unhappy.
right. And that was post-accident. Okay, interesting. Comment from Gail, that is a lot to deal with, the body image, not being loved, being alone. That is, and I hadn't even thought of that. For some reason, a young person going through that transformation, of course, you would think about family and love and that part of your life. What will that look like? But that worked out okay, from what I understand.
It did.
So, how was that part of your positive transition, or what what helped you along the way? Clearly, you went a long way from those dark days.
Well, certainly the friends and family and their love. And I was, oh, I think maybe something that might have saved me was my curiosity for people and my curiosity for people's behavior.
Yeah.
I find people are so weird. And I really enjoy analyzing why people do the things they do. And so what it was very helpful for me to, in rehab, just to listen to all these stories and of people taking really risky behavior and or just bad luck or whatever it was. But I found it all fascinating. So I think that my very active mind, which went along with my very active bottom before, was just still there. It was all there.
Mm,
And and so that helped me a lot. And then, well, the whole system set up for, like, rehab is serious business here. Like, we got, lots of therapy, and you've got all kinds of different therapies, and then you're doing therapy in physio, you know, just talking to your physio about life and the universe and all that. So, and because I'm a soul searcher and this is what I do, I think that I was gonna be okay with that because I just had to make it work. I,
mhm.
I was a young person, and the alternatives seemed very, very, very sad. And so I wanted to, I did my best.
Yeah, it sounds like you found almost like a mental superpower or a way to harness that energy in a different way. I'm using the word superpower playfully, but
No, no, that's okay. I see it because, um, well, you'll never know until the people say, "Oh, I don't know how you do it. How do you do it? How could you do it? I would never be able to do it." But until you're put in a position, actually, you do find courage. That we all have it in us. It's
Mhm.
just like, look at the people in Ukraine. They've got it in them to fight back and forge on and don't let the bully win and all that, so
Mm, absolutely. That's true. You don't know until you get a big test in your life what exactly you're capable of.
no, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Not this one, no.
Sure. Some cheering in the chat box. Our 16-year-old granddaughter was injured in a sledding accident on 124. Oh, that's very recent. She's just beginning to adjust to her new life in a wheelchair. She's currently at Shepherd Center in ATL. I'm thinking that's Atlanta. Um, comment from Paulina that, you were put in situations as a child where you had to be brave. And so you found maybe you developed a pattern or a way of responding emotionally that helped you along.
Oh, maybe.
Interesting. So do you have any words of wisdom for the grandmother who wrote in the chat box that her grandchild is just at the beginning of that process?
Um, well, it's so recent. So just be there for her, support her, love her, and give her time because it's going to take a lot of time.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, just be present is what I'm hearing you say. So tell us about your role as a volunteer peer supporter for folks who are coming out of rehab.
Well, that actually came from one of my really dark times. Is I had my third baby. It was a very difficult delivery. I was not well. My health declined, and that's when I don't feel well mentally.
Mm.
And so I got sick. I got a bed sore. I was in bed for 6 months. And we had just moved to this new place. So I was far from my parents, far from my friends in Montreal. I had lost all my support. And coming to this place, well, it just seems like Quebec to you. But it's the Beauce is like another country. It's like another culture.
Yeah,
And I was totally surprised that that my Gabriel was being bullied at school, and that my that there was all this fighting with the neighbors and things that I didn't expect at all. And then I had Evelyn, who was refusing to get out of diapers, of course, because I wasn't up and about. We just sat and read stories in bed or for a long time. So anyway, so what I did is when I finally got feeling better, I reached out and I joined the association that had helped me through other hard times. And I reached out to the woman who sort of runs the show in Quebec City, and we talked and we shared, and she was such a good listener and so open to sharing her own personal things as well. And then she invited me to an activity, which was Valentine's Day lunch, and I signed up for me and my husband and my little baby Ev, and off we went to this place. And I picked a table because I didn't know anybody. I just thought, oh, okay, well, whatever. And so I sat in front of this young woman, and we started to talk, and she was she confided her accident story in me, and then she had this big smile on her face and these little sparkles in her eyes, and said, "Oh, I stood up by myself yesterday."
Oh, wow.
And I was so surprised at my reaction, because it could have been good or bad, right? But I was so happy for her, and we had so much fun just celebrating her success, that I thought, okay, this is something here, that I can listen to these stories and just rejoice with other people on their successes, but also accompany them in their difficult times.
Mhm.
So yeah, and then so then they asked, the woman from Quebec asked me to do a conference, and I got up in front of a lot of people and talked, and told my story. And she said, your stories could help other people, maybe give them inspiration or make them feel better, or give them ideas or whatever it is. And so I was prepared to give of myself at that time, to help other people with this. And so now I have like 250 names around my area, and I just go one after another down the list, and we chat on the phone, and if there's an activity, I invite them to it. And some people, it all depends on their level of injury. Some people can bowl in their wheelchairs or curl, or some just like to drink wine and chat, and that's fine too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's reaching out to other people has really helped in 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 my mental health, I'd say.
Mhm. It's amazing how many programs, even research studies, find that helping other people gives the helper a boost. One study even showed that it increases endorphins or serotonin. It does something in the brain that gives a person a high, and can even, yeah, it's something that you crave again and again then, which is a beautiful thing. So it's wonderful that you found that. How do you give people hope when they're struggling?
Well, if they're really struggling, I don't. I get down in the dirt and the dark with them, and I sit there and I respect it, and I listen to it, and I think it helps that they know that I'm not afraid of it, and I'm there with them, and I'm not gonna fix them right away. And then after a certain amount of time, I might say, call you back next week, and they'll say, when, what day, what time? And then I know, okay, there's a little crack in the shell, and then then I'll start talking about physical health, and like exercising, eating well, being outside, all these things that make your physical body feel better, so that your mental health feels better as well, and other things like that. What else do I do? A lot of people get into sports, depending on the level of injury.
Mhm.
And so I direct them to those things, or people, and a lot of others um, learn to express themselves in different ways, like in drawing or whatever. So
Mm.
I encourage them to read a lot and to, but not a lot of people, not everyone wants to do that. But I find that when you have knowledge of what's really going on and other people's situations, then sometimes you don't have to look at yourself all the time, and that feels good too. To
Mhm.
see that, oh well, you're not comparing, you're not saying, oh well, he's worse off than me, but you are saying, well, oh look, this is just the way it is, and look at all the people trying to do the best they can. And
Mhm. That makes sense. You kind of take away a feeling of we're all in this together. It's a journey, it's a process, and I can learn from other folks and they can learn from me perhaps. Comment from the chat, Linda, just to feel heard and understood makes a person feel accepted for where they are and that their feelings are valid. People want understanding and not to be fixed. And I feel like, Madeleine, that's the first thing you said was, I don't do anything. I don't try to fix them. I'm just there with them. I'm present and accept where they're at and be there with them. And that is enormous. I just love that answer because that can be so hard to find when you're down. Everyone wants to change it or fix it because that makes them feel better. It takes away their anxiety.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a very powerful thing to do.
Good.
So studies show that people with spinal cord injuries are vulnerable to depression and even more likely to complete suicide. Have you noticed that in your work? And what do you recommend to clients to keep themselves mentally well?
Certainly in rehab, we talked about it, a bunch of us together, but sometimes it would turn into a joke and we would end up laughing hysterically because we're thinking up different ways that we could just off ourselves quick, like let's get it over with, And but then I would look around the room and I realized that some people were kind of taking it seriously. So I knew that it was there. I didn't feel that way. There was one guy who said to me, if I get cancer, fuck it, I'm not going to get treatment. And I thought that was such a cop out and such a lack of imagination that he was going, because I had never heard anything like that before, that like suicide by cancer. I mean, there must be easier ways than that, but he just was so dark and he just festering. Everything was festering, and he did die of cancer not long after.
Oh, wow.
I know. So that's pretty powerful in itself. People talk about it. I let them talk. And then you identify if it's just, a bad mood or if it's a plan or what. Because if there's, and then I might suggest a doctor or whatever, a doctor mostly. Or more, what else? I think I noticed that from my group of people that went through rehab with, so now it's like 35 years ago, the women are alive and the men are not.
Wow.
And I'm really curious about that. Is it because they were alone? Are the women the ones with a partner, so there's a steady a health check every day? Is it
Huh.
companionship, good food together, sex? Is it what are we dealing with? I don't know. Anyway, so I'm curious about that. So
So
now in Quebec, though, we're talking more about
can I clarify about that?
oh
I
okay.
have a question. So you had a cohort of people that you went through rehab with, and now all these years later, more women have survived all this time than men.
There's me and my friend Sherry, 2 girls, and and the 6 guys are dead.
It wasn't suicide, it was various ways that they passed away.
Yeah, but it was just all health, mental health, like what comes first.
Yeah, okay.
And I just wonder. So I'm just throwing it out there as an idea. Maybe somebody should study that.
That is very interesting. And Gail Pruitt, our psychiatric nurse on the chat box, is agreeing in that with that one too. There could be a lack of social connection. Women seem to be a little more adept at connecting with other humans.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true for myself personally, but that's what they say.
You do fine, Peg. You do fine.
Thank you. All right. So you got into storytelling with a class. What does it do for your mental health? How did it grow as a part of your life?
It was during COVID, and because of COVID, I could not see my mother, who was living in Quebec City. So what I started to do was read to her novels over the phone in the afternoon, because she's losing her eyesight and all this. And then I thought, oh well, there must be a way that maybe I can do it for like a whole group of people or something, and read to them. And so we joined a book club. So I had my mom on my cell phone. We had the book club on the Zoom, and we were talking books. And it was that was really kind of a fun experience. I was just reaching out, trying to break the isolation of COVID, because it was a hard time. Then there's a storytelling workshop. I decided to take it on a whim. 4 weeks. The teacher says, you're ready, you can pitch stories. She sends me a link, and I thought, okay, well, that's scary for somebody who doesn't speak much in public. And she said, oh no, I had to send a pitch by December the 1st. And it was like November 30th at midnight or something when I got the information. So it's like, okay, I've got 24 hours to figure something out. And I dreamt a story, and I dictated it and into my tablet and sent it off. And the next day, the producer said, oh, we want your story. We want you. So, and the rest is kind of history. It did start as a game. Can I tell a story in 99 seconds without fainting, without having a heart attack, without, forgetting what I'm saying or whatever?
Sure.
And then some really wise people encouraged me to go deeper and deeper. And I realized that there were some things that I just sort of skated over in my accident, because I just got busy and I kept going and forged on, and I was the soldier moving forward, right? So, and then I'm breaking little cracks in my own little secrets, and I realize I'm not the only person with a weird story. And it's kind of refreshing to realize that, you know, I've been listening to other people, and some stories are embarrassing or shameful or angry or all these things. And it's like, oh, okay, so it's not just me. Okay. Yeah, and so that was very helpful to find a community out there somewhere, and that people were willing to listen to my weird stuff too. So
We all have our weird stuff, don't we? I like that. That's a fun way of putting it. So I have to confess, I have lost track of time. It's been so interesting to hear about your life and what you've gone through. But we're going to wrap up the interview portion of the show now. Before we move into our video of the week, I want to thank the folks who are helping us behind the scenes, doing an amazing job. That's intern Paulina Mendez on chat, and Gail Pruitt, the psychiatric nurse, who helps us on Facebook and contributes to chat. And of course, our deepest thanks to Madeleine for spending your evening with us and sharing your wisdom and your insights. All right. So now we're going to show a brief video of the week. I'm going to pull this up. This is our former mascot here at NAMI, North Carolina, a little puppy called Roxy. Enjoy. All right. So we like to lighten the mood a little bit. Roxy passed away in January of last year, but we still remember her with love, and she gave us a lot of smiles here at NAMI, North Carolina. So something fun. All right, now it is time to take questions from you, members of our virtual studio audience on Zoom and Facebook. If you have a question for Madeleine, you can type the Q&A icon on the bottom left of your screen, or type it in the comment section of your Facebook Live screen, and we would love to answer your questions. And there was someone with their hand up. I don't see the hand up anymore at this point. I'll make some quick announcements while we see what comes in on the question line. Please join us next week for Thursdays with NAMI. We've got an executive producer who will be discussing a film on Black mental health. It's called Hush, Help Us Say Help. Millions of Black Americans struggle with mental illness but do not get the help they need. Why is that? We'll be talking about a 90-minute documentary that's coming up this summer, looking at the social, historical, and political influences around that suffering. Real quick, please fill out our survey when you leave the Zoom session. A survey will magically appear. If you'd like to be a speaker, you can put that in the survey. All right, a question from Linda. How did you meet your husband?
Oh, it's another story.
Great.
I met Jean-Pierre at a Thanksgiving dinner party. Yes, I had a very close friend in the second rehab, the one right before going into an apartment, and she invited me to her place, and I said, fine. I had no idea. She pushed me down the road in my manual chair, and glad I was in it because she lived at about, I know, 3 stories up. And
Ooh.
I said, so how are we going to get up there? Oh, we'll just ask some guy on the road. So we asked some guy on the road. He gets me up there. It's not him, not John Pierre, not yet. But I thought, okay, we'll just ask some guy on the road. So she gets me up into her place, and it's really nice. And she's made turkey dinner, and then people start arriving, and then this guy arrives, and he's different. I know he's different right away because he's there and he's single, but he's got twin 3-year-old boys.
Ooh.
It's like, okay. So we have a really great time. It was a nice night, and I don't know what kind of impression I made on him, but it was a good one because I think, okay, well, what did I do? So I'm looking back and it's like, well, I just talked to his kids like they're amazing humans, and played silly games and made them laugh. And anyway, he looks right into my eyes and he says, I'm going to see you again. And I thought,
Nice.
okay. So but I was kind of afraid, and because of all the issues I mentioned before. And but I saw that it was possible.
Mm.
And so when I got into my apartment, and I was a student in social work at McGill, and I was independent of finally from this difficult relationship that I had had. And my arms were open wide to just whatever was going to come at me from the universe. I was just ready to receive the joy, let's just say.
Oh,
And so yeah, he was into me before I was into him. And 6 months later, well, we were right in there together.
nice.
Yeah, it
How
was
long after you met were you actually married?
2 years. Oh, 2.5 years.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, we were yeah, because he had a house on the South Shore, and he had these 2 little kids to take care of, and there was all kinds of complexities, let's just say. So I kept my place, he kept his place, and I wanted to be near the university as well. And I knew that access to places where I could work would be probably easier in the city. So, but then we jumped in together.
Well, that's wonderful. That's a wonderful story. Um, or in the chat box, cute. So,
Yeah, well, it is, still is.
what does a typical day look like for you?
Oh, right now it takes me a long time to get up in the morning. Lots of prep time. So I might be eating at 11. So I only eat twice a day. I don't. There's no time for more. And so I'll do a couple calls for off my list, support a couple people. I might look into writing a story I might have thought of in the night. I might every day at 3 I'm reading to my mom. and supporting her in her in confinement in COVID for she's 91, so it's
Ooh.
yeah, she's been having a rough time, so I give her that, and we've supported each other through that. And well, depending on now kids are coming back more because they can, and everybody's vaccinated and stuff, but in March, like 2 years ago, it was devastating to have everybody left almost at once, so that we were just devastated about. Oh, nope, sorry, I'm being requested, but I COVID was really difficult. So so that when it was like empty nesters instantly,
Ooh.
because my girls wanted to work if they wanted to continue with school, but they didn't want to bring back this life-threatening thing for me, because well, with the paralysis, you just don't have a whole lot of lung capacity to deal with all these infections. So I didn't know what was going to happen.
Okay.
So yeah, so it was that's why I'm was looking for other avenues of interest.
I see. And the storytelling class was one of the things that you picked up to fill that gap a little bit. That
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. Coming from Linda, your calls to as part of your peer support job are a lifeline to those you connect with. And a fun question from Paulina: where can we find more of your stories?
Should I don't know. Well, I post on Facebook when I have a good story.
Okay.
And I did 2 stories for Soul Story Live, so I think that's probably on their page somewhere, or a channel on YouTube or something.
And that's out of Chicago, correct?
Yes, and I did a few stories on Bodies of Stories, and I think that's yeah, that's a YouTube channel. So if you just type me in to the search, you'll find some of my early stuff when I was still really nervous about speaking in public and all that. So, but it's okay. And well, this just recently, maybe 2 Fridays ago, I did my first live show in Montreal, which was a very exciting experience. And but for me, I always have to change the world before I actually get out and do something, because I have to make sure there's a ramp and an elevator and everything's accessible. And so yeah, it's going to be it might be a book, it might be we don't know. I might have to make it easier on myself and stay home and do it like this. I don't know. I have a story that came out in January in a book from Chicago. It's Storytellers True Stories About Love. And I was selected, and so one of my stories is in there. And just before tonight, I got an email, and there's another one coming out in another book for Bodies of Stories, and it's and that one's called Indelible Ink. So
nice.
Yeah, so I'm oh, and one more thing, you could look up the Volume Knob. That's it's a podcast out of Montreal, and it's a guy who does his podcast is The Songs That Save Your Life. And so we put music to your stories, and it's really pretty wonderful. So I did one last year, and now I'm doing one in 2 weeks, so that's fun too.
It's
The volume knob.
KNOB knob.
Yeah, KNOB. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Sure, the volume knob. Interesting. And Paulina has found some YouTube links if you'd like to check out Madeleine's stories on YouTube. She is putting them in the chat. I'm sure they're on Facebook as well, thanks to Gail. Question from Mary Miller: how wheelchair accessible is Montreal?
Well, not in a snowstorm. Okay. Okay, so it was a miracle that I got to that show the other day, but it's pretty good. I go there. I have a hotel where I go, and it's in the old Olympic Village, and it's where they put all the paraplegic Olympians. So it's accessible pretty okay. So that, it's not perfect, but but this theater where I went was an old theater, Centaur Theater, and so the sidewalks were horrible. The roads were cobblestone. The metal ramp came down into a slushy.
Oh, no.
Anyway, it was quite an adventure. Anyway, a story in itself. Let's just to get there to tell a story. So, but if you have an accessible apartment, which I did when I was young, and you have your 3-4 places where you go, life can happen. There's an adapted bus, but nothing like Las Vegas or something where you're just getting on a city bus with a ramp and stuff like that. We're not that far along yet.
I see. Yeah, I can relate to your comment about, you have a few places that work for you and you can get by. That probably wouldn't change my routine all that much if it were me. Just that little tiny piece of it. I don't tend to go to a lot of new and exciting places.
Well, you've got your pharmacy, and you got your grocery store and all those things. And while we have found in near here, in a village near here, where they bring in blues bands and stuff, and so it's really fun. We have a table where we can have our little beer and our popcorn and just watch the show, and it's so you find what you like, and then you make it work for you. And
that sounds lovely. That sounds lovely. Question from Gail: how did you develop such forward and outlooking perspectives to get through those challenging times, like finding the way to deal with the empty nest or getting through the dark days of your injury?
Well, there's probably a lot of therapy. A lot of people help me do it, find the skills to reach out. We had to break down this barrier of don't ask for help because you'll show your weakness or something like that. But once I'm beyond that and realize, oh, wait a minute, it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to have support from people, the professionals that are there. That's what they're there for. Then I can move on. So that definitely a lot of therapy early on, and then doing social work. Each class became a therapeutic thing. It was like I could whatever it was, or whatever we were learning about, if it was sexual abuse or a domestic violence or what, like things that I heard about and read about but didn't really know about, but I could always put myself in their shoes because of what I had lived, so that everything became therapeutic.
Mm, interesting.
Even the storytelling now, it's transformative. I'm coming out of this pandemic something different, someone different than I was a couple of years ago. So
Well, I love that. Is it telling your story or the skills that are helping you to evolve, or all of it?
I'm just a soul searcher, and I really, really do like human behavior and analyzing it. And luckily for me, my husband, who's my very good friend, likes to do that too. So we do it a lot. So yeah, we talk all the time.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, our time is kind of flying by. We do have about 14 more minutes if you have questions. Is there anything you'd like to say that we have not covered?
There are other stories. There's other times for that, I'm sure.
Okay. All right, well, I'll remind people again, please complete our survey. If you have more questions, type them in the Q&A at the bottom left of your screen. Fill out our survey when you finish with this Zoom seminar. Please, it helps us keep our grant funding and improve over time. If you'd like to be a speaker or recommend a speaker for Thursdays with NAMI, you too can have the spotlight like Madeleine has tonight. Just take the survey and put that contact information in it. And join us next week to speak with Deland Thomas, executive producer of the upcoming movie Hush, Help Us Say Help. All right. So I'm not seeing questions, but I do see some wonderful chats in the chat box. The tall doctor by your bedside, those many years ago, foretold what you would find: love, success, fulfillment, and purpose. Thank you for that, Linda. And from Gail, what empathy to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Thank you so much for your answers. My sense is that you don't rely on just one thing to get you through. You have a whole shopping bag full of things. I like the shopping bag image more than the normal toolkit image. Thank you for that, Gail. That's just a whole lot more fun. All right, I think we're ready to say goodnight. I want to thank everybody. We go from 8 to 8:30, depending on the flow, and it kind of feels to me like we've covered all the bases we need to cover. Thank you so much to Madeleine for sharing your story. You just have this quiet but powerful presence, and I really appreciate the way that you share your thoughts and your insights. I've gotten a lot out of it, and I know other people have too. Please remember, if you're alone, please reach out to NAMI or reach out to another group that will work for you. You don't have to be alone. You can join a support group, a free support group, or a class with NAMI, or call our helpline. We can direct you to other resources. Be part of a community that understands what you're going through and can say, me too. We've all been there. Thanks, everyone, and have a wonderful week ahead. Good night.
Thank you.